My daughter-in-law slammed a stack of papers in front of me and said, "Sign it, or I'll hit you harder next time." I tasted blood, but I didn't cry. I looked her straight in the eye, memorizing every word, every bruise, every timestamp. That night, while she thought I was hiding in shame, I started my own kind of paperwork, one that would turn her threats into evidence. She believed she'd won. She had no idea the quiet war had just begun. Before I continue the story, please subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to hear your story too. The heat in Houston that evening felt like it had weight. The air shimmered above the driveway, bending the porch light into a golden haze. From my recliner by the front window, I watched the sun bleed into the horizon and the little blue LED on the doorbell. Cam blink its slow rhythm, steady, patient, watching. The knitted blanket I'd been working on for my granddaughter rested across my knees, half done. A framed photo of my late husband smiled from the mantel, his eyes calm, the kind of calm that steadies you when the world decides to test you. When the bell rang, I didn't flinch. I already knew who it was. Darlie breezed in with that tight smile she wore when she was pretending to be in a hurry. Her phone screen glowed before she even set her purse down. "Mom, can you sign this real quick?" she said, sliding a manila envelope onto the table. The banking app was already open on her phone. Add authorized user, toggle already set to full control. "It's just so I can help with bills," she added. "Tech can be tricky for you sometimes." Her tone was syrupy, but her eyes were sharp. I took the papers, pretending to read slowly. The word owner sat above my name. Below it, beneficiary, Darlie Quinn. I noticed her finger twitch toward the pen, ready to guide my hand like I was a child. "Let's review this together," I said, my voice quiet. I reached for my reading glasses, but instead I reached for my phone, just a soft tap to wake the camera. I smiled at her. "You know me, always careful." She smiled back, a little too wide. The moment stretched thin. When I pushed the papers back across the table, her expression cracked. "What's this about?" she demanded. "I'm not signing tonight," I said. The silence that followed was heavy. Then her voice rose, sharp, high-pitched, trembling not with fear but rage. "You think I'd hurt you? You think I'd steal from my own mother?" Before I could answer, she shoved the papers into my chest. The edge caught my chin. I stumbled back. Then came the blow, swift, blinding. My nose exploded with warmth. White cotton turned crimson. I remember the sound of my own breathing, steady but thin, as I pressed the dish towel to my face and called 911. I gave them her name, the address, the description. I did not scream. I did not cry. By the time the sirens arrived, she was gone. At the emergency room, under the sharp hum of fluorescent lights, I sat on a plastic chair and asked the nurse for copies, printed ER report, time-stamped photos, and the 911 call number. She blinked at me like no one had ever requested such things before. "It's for my records," I said simply. They patched my nose, gave me an ice pack, and tried to talk about rest, but rest wasn't what I needed. By midnight, I was home again. The house smelled faintly of bleach and lavender. I sat at the dining table, spread the papers out, and began assembling what I would later call the red file. ER report, photos, call record, even a still frame from the doorbell cam. Every item had its place in a red folder from my husband's old office. At 12:42 a.m., a message buzzed through. "Darlie, you made me do that. I was only trying to help." I took a screenshot, printed it, clipped it neatly under the tab labeled Statements. At 3:07 a.m., my phone rang again, This time, an unfamiliar number. "This is First Texas Bank's fraud department," a calm voice said. "We noticed a series of failed transfer attempts from your account, originating from a different IP address." "Time?" I asked. "Between 2:56 and 3:06 a.m. Please flag the account and mark the attempted device," I said. "I'll verify in person at opening." "Of course. Mrs. What? Hale." When I hung up, the world felt smaller, but clearer. At dawn, an email arrived. Access revoked. Beneath it, another new device added 02:58 a.m. I moved methodically. Screenshots, printouts, all tucked into the red file. Then I changed my passwords from a clean device my husband once used only for taxes. The blue LED on the doorbell cam blinked again. Watching. I took the knitted blanket and laid it gently over the folder, smoothing it flat. "She thought I'd hide in shame," I whispered, "but I'll walk into that bank with my red file." I arrived at the bank just after sunrise, the streets of Montrose still quiet except for the hiss of sprinklers. The glass doors reflected the orange light and my own face, nose bandaged, blouse clean, the red file tucked under my arm. When the security shutters lifted, I stepped forward. I wasn't here to ask for sympathy. I was here to make sense of a story written in data. A woman in a navy jacket with security liaison embroidered above her badge greeted me with steady eyes. "Mrs. Hale, I'm Zara Bell. Let's get you somewhere private." The glass-walled room smelled of coffee and printer toner. Zara powered up her tablet, verified my ID, then began scanning through the red file with the precision of someone who respected paper as much as people. "You've already done half my job," she said. "ER report, 911 call number, even screenshots of access attempts. That helps a lot." She explained the process: temporary freeze pending review, escalation to the fraud team, a new case number to track everything. "We can't confirm names yet," she added, "but the timestamps will tell us who tried to move your funds." I nodded. "Truth leaves fingerprints," I said quietly. Zara smiled, just slightly. "Then we'll find them." By mid-morning, we sat side by side, reconstructing the night in minute-by-minute blocks. The logs showed each transfer attempt. 3 failed, 1 blocked for a mismatched signature. Zara requested a device fingerprint and IP trace, adding notes for branch ATM cameras in case an in-person try followed. She printed a summary for me to include in the red file. "This is your paper trail," she said. "Keep it safe. If legal action follows, it'll hold up." "I intend to," I replied. When she escorted me out, I thanked her not just for the work, but for treating me like someone capable. The alliance was quiet, professional, and real. Outside, the air had turned humid and bright. I stopped for coffee, then called Avery Finch, the attorney my late husband once trusted for real estate work. He answered on the second ring, voice crisp and direct. Within an hour, I was in his office downtown. Red file open between us. Avery read quickly, lips pressing thin at the photos. "We'll freeze all linked accounts," he said. "I'll draft a revocable living trust to secure the assets and prepare a restraining order if she tries again." He slid a notepad toward me. "Start a timeline. Dates, calls, every detail. No emotion, just facts." That advice settled something inside me. Law over panic, order over noise. Avery dictated steps to his paralegal, preservation letters to the bank, the HOA, and even the postal service in case mail tampering occurred. "Chain of custody matters," he said. "Everything you document becomes armor." I left his office lighter, though nothing about this was light. Next stop was a small electronics store off Richmond Avenue. The clerk handed me a pen camera sleek enough to pass for ordinary. I also asked about secure cloud storage for doorbell footage. "Bigger bit rate, longer retention," I told him. He looked impressed. "Back home." I tested the pen by narrating softly into it. Camera test. Living room light. 2:43 p.m. The tiny lens winked red once, then settled. I labeled 2 SD cards with dates and slid them into separate envelopes marked per Avery's instructions. The doorbell cam hummed as I upgraded the cloud tier. When the notification confirmed the new encryption key, I exhaled slowly. The house was still, but no longer vulnerable. Avery's final note had been simple: build your safety net. So I called the Adult Protective Services hotline. The operator listened, professional but kind. I explained the incident, gave them the police and ER case numbers, and scheduled a wellness check. "You've done everything right," she said. I hung up feeling both exposed and strangely relieved. Before dinner, I booked a Monday appointment with Dr. Oo Lee, my primary care physician. "We'll do a mini-cog and sign a capacity letter," she said. I thanked her. Capacity wasn't my worry, but documentation silences doubters. That evening, I sat at the kitchen table drafting what I called house rules. Never open the door without the phone recording. No arguments with Darlie, all contact through counsel. Neighbors informed of potential visits. It read like a battle plan, written in calm ink. I looked at the pen camera resting in a ceramic cup beside the ledger and smiled without softness. The red file lay on the table, its edges straight, its weight familiar. "If she comes back asking for power," I said aloud, "she'll speak into the lens that remembers." Monday began with a quiet hum, the kind Houston mornings have before the heat claims the air. I brewed coffee, watched the doorbell cam upload its routine clips to the cloud, and checked my appointment reminder 10:00 a.m. Dr. Ahit Lee, PCP. The house smelled faintly of toast and disinfectant from yesterday's cleaning spree. Normalcy, fragile, but real. By 9:30, I was seated in Dr. Lee's exam room, a framed print of bluebonnets hanging above the counter. She was brisk, kind, mid-40s, the sort of doctor who respected order. After the blood pressure check and a glance at the small bandage still on my nose, she said, "So, you need a capacity letter. Let's make it official." She handed me a small sheet with 3 questions. Draw a clock, recall these words, count backward by 7s. I smiled and drew the clock neatly, the hands pointing to 10 past 11. The memory words, apple, penny, table, came easily. When she finished typing, her printer hummed out the document, 1 page, bold letterhead, stamped and signed, full cognitive capacity, or, in plain terms, "You're sharper than half my residents," she said with a grin. I thanked her, placed the sealed envelope into a plastic sleeve, and slid it into the red file when I got to my car. Not because I needed proof, but because people like Darlie always demanded it. At 12:14 p.m., my phone rang. Zara Bell's voice came through, steady as before. "Mrs. Hale, I have the update. The 307 device attempts, confirmed match. IMEI and SIM are registered under Darlie Quinn. We've escalated to a full fraud case. Her access is frozen." There was a pause where I could almost hear her hesitate, expecting anger or tears. Instead, I said, "Thank you. Miss Bell, please email me the case number for my records." "Already done," she said. After the call, I wrote the number on a yellow sticky note and pressed it to the front of the red file. The paper whispered against my fingers like something alive. Justice didn't always roar. It often just clicked. At 2:00, my voicemail light blinked. Darlie's voice, syrupy and composed, spilled into the speaker. "Mom, listen. We're securing your future, okay? You don't need to handle all this stress alone. The bank knows what's best for you. I'm just trying to protect you." Her words were carefully arranged, the way she used to fold napkins, Pretty on the outside, hiding the stains. I replayed it twice, saved the file, then emailed it to Avery Finch with the subject line, "For the record, June 23rd, 2:07 p.m. I didn't reply to her. Some messages don't deserve an answer. They deserve to be documented. By late afternoon, the phone rang again. This time, a calm female voice introduced herself. "Mrs. Hale, this is Shanann Price with Adult Protective Services. I'm calling regarding the wellness check you requested." Her tone was professional but warm. "We've reviewed your report and opened an official case. I'll plan a visit within the next 48 hours. Could you have your documents ready? Doctor's letter? Case numbers?" "Yes," I said. "They're already prepared." "Good," she replied. "You're doing everything right. We'll make sure you're safe." After hanging up, I sat for a moment at the kitchen table, surrounded by papers that once would have overwhelmed me. Now, they looked like small shields, each labeled and lined. I placed the new capacity letter next to the red file, checked the pen camera's memory card, and created a new folder on my laptop, June 23 capacity, proof. Proof was power, but power, I'd learned, needed patience. By evening, the heat broke. A distant storm rolled over downtown, lightning glinting off the skyline like camera flashes. The TV in the background murmured about rising cases of cyber fraud and elder scams. I muted it, content just to watch the clouds move. The flash illuminated the table where the red file and the sealed capacity letter lay side by side, both stamped, both true. I took a breath and said softly, "If the storm had a name, mine was written in ink." Morning light cut through the blinds in even stripes, glinting off the stainless kettle. I labeled 2 new folders on my laptop, June 24 APS and June 24 Pen, and slid them into the master red file directory. The kitchen table was clean, polished, quiet. I placed the pen camera inside a ceramic cup aimed toward the seating area, its LED off. The doorbell cloud was set to high retention, and a note beside it read, "Today's visit, 9:30 M. Everything in its place. Nothing defensive, just order." The knock came on time. When I opened the door, Shanann Price stood there, short braids, government badge, calm presence. "Mrs. Hale, I'm here for our scheduled wellness visit." We sat at the kitchen table, the same one that had seen too many half-truths and apologies. I handed over copies of the ER report, 911 CAD log, access revoked emails, and the doctor's capacity letter. The sealed original stayed in the red file. Shanann spread the pages neatly, photographing each with her agency phone. "We'll note low self-neglect, high third-party exploitation risk," she said, pen tapping. "Who else has house keys?" "Only me now," I replied. She nodded. "Good. Any new threats?" "Not direct," I said. "But she left another voicemail last week. You'll find it in the folder labeled June 23. Shanann photographed the white blouse in its garment bag. The faint red stain showed against the fabric like a memory that refused to fade. "You handled this correctly, Mrs. Hale. We'll keep scheduled check-ins. You're doing everything right." Her validation wasn't sentimental. It was procedural, factual, the kind that mattered in court. Before she left, she advised softly, "Avoid direct confrontation. Let your attorney and bank handle communication. Also, your HOA likely keeps night camera archives. Request retention just in case. And check your mailbox security. Mail intercepts sometimes happen after freezes." I wrote it all down. HOA footage retention. Yes. USPS informed delivery. Check. Even safety could be logged like data. By noon, I called Zara at the bank. She confirmed the device report was pending final review. I texted Avery, All audio, video to follow chain of custody protocol. Cross-check timestamps. Then I synchronized every clock in the house. Phone, stove, pen camera to 12 ba sharp. On a sticky note, I wrote in block letters, time us evidence. The afternoon passed in ordinary rhythms, stew simmering, envelopes stacked for payment, blinds half drawn. I left the pen camera where it was, capturing the quiet, the hum of air conditioning. To anyone else, it was a management day. To me, it was bait. At dusk, the doorbell chimed. I let it record. Darlie's voice came before her body appeared in the frame. Cheerful, brittle. Mom, I was nearby. Thought I'd check on you. Her perfume hit first, sweet and heavy. She stepped in, surveying the room like it belonged to her. You really shouldn't be alone dealing with all this paperwork, she said, setting a manila folder on the table. The pen camera caught her hands, her bracelets glinting, her smile rehearsed. I stayed seated, chin level. What's that? Just some forms, she said. I'm trying to secure your future, make things easier for everyone. Everyone meaning you? I thought, but didn't say. Instead, I asked, You're asking for full control of my savings, on record? She laughed, thin and sharp. Mom, don't make this harder. Sign it, or I'll make this harder. The words dropped into the mic clean as glass breaking. My voice stayed level. Understood. You're requesting I sign away my funds. Her face changed, shock first, then anger. She snatched her papers, muttering, You're impossible, and stormed toward the door. The bell caught her exit. The house fell back into its hum. When the silence settled, I reached for the ceramic cup, stopped the pen camera, and transferred the file to my laptop. 2 duplicates, one encrypted drive labeled June 24's S6 entry, another June 24 S7 threat. I opened the red file index, updated the log, and emailed Avery the SHA-256 hash values for verification. Relief came not as joy, but as symmetry. Every document, every timestamp, every frame aligned. I texted Shanann, new audio captured, we're safe tonight, before bed. I folded the knitted blanket and placed it over the red file. Outside, the night hummed with the soft static of cicadas. Tomorrow would bring numbers, the IMEI, the geomatch, the proof that technology, not tears, would end this. I turned off the lamp and whispered, Tomorrow, words will meet numbers. The device report has a name. The morning sun bounced off the glass towers downtown as I stepped into the bank lobby. Red file tucked under my arm like armor. The air smelled of toner and hand sanitizer. Zara met my eyes with a small nod. Mrs. Hale, he's ready for you. Inside the conference room, the blinds were half closed against the light. Miles Corbin, senior manager, white shirt, sleeves rolled once, gestured to a chair across from him. His voice began formal, practiced. We're reviewing the flagged transactions and prior joint access issues. I placed the red file on the table, the tabbed folders fanned open to their precise order. ER report, 911 CAD log, capacity letter, device report. He scrolled through his monitor, then froze. His tone shifted. Mrs. Hale, I owe you an apology. His cursor highlighted the IMEI match, the one linked to Darlie's phone. This data, combined with your 307 call record, there's no ambiguity here. Zara, silent until now, slid over the printed timeline she'd compiled. The timestamps formed a chain tighter than any excuse could break. Miles cleared his throat. Effective immediately. Your full authorization is reinstated. He clicked a button. The screen refreshed. Darlie's name vanished from the joint access list. The moment passed like a quiet exhale. No triumph, Only verification." "Thank you," I said, my tone steady. "Please add this acknowledgement to the record." He nodded. "You've been wronged, Mrs. Hale, but you also did everything right." Outside the conference room, Zara lingered for a moment. "Internal escalation tickets filed," she murmured, handing me a small memo. "If this ever goes to subpoena, the branch will cooperate." I slipped the memo into the red file. "Thank you, Zara." Her smile was small but certain. "Quiet justice," she said, almost under her breath. By late morning, I stepped into the Houston air, hot, damp, and strangely light. My phone buzzed. Avery's name flashed. "Good timing," she said. "The device and video timestamps matched to the second. You've got chain integrity. Arliss, that's gold." "I just watched the manager remove her name," I replied. "Then today marks the pivot. Keep everything duplicated, upload to the secure cloud, case 0625 verified." Already done. I could feel the strength of process in my fingertips, each line of metadata, each folder labeled like a rung on a ladder that led away from chaos. I walked across the street to a small cafe. Lunch was quiet. Coffee, tomato bisque, and my notepad. Across the counter, 2 young bankers were talking. "People just sign without reading," one said. "Family or not, you can lose everything overnight." I smiled faintly. Truth. Spoken too late for some. I wrote 3 bullet points on my napkin. APS follow-up check. CHOA footage request. USPS intercept risk. The list was short, but each item meant insulation. Another layer between my peace and their reach. By mid-afternoon, my phone vibrated again. A notification. Group chat. Our family future, 1 participant. They'd removed me. The name stayed, though. Our family future. I laughed softly. Apparently, not mine. For the first time, the silence felt like proof. Fear disguised as distance. They had realized the tide had turned, and the current now flowed my way. Evening found me back home. The storm clouds rolling low over Houston. I placed the red file on the table, pen camera in the drawer, and updated the ledger. Bank apology. Filed. Access restored. Verified. Chain confirmed. Duplicated. The refrigerator hummed. The sky outside flickered with the final edges of the storm. I pulled the knitted blanket closer around my shoulders. Warmth over structure. Tomorrow would belong to paper, to notarized signatures, timestamps, and the kind of memory that never fades or forgives. Paper remembers, I whispered, and I knew, so would I. Morning rain traced thin silver lines down the kitchen window as I arranged the fresh printouts on my dining table. The radio hummed with soft jazz, that kind of mellow tune meant for mornings that should have been quiet. My red file lay open beside my coffee mug, tabs in clean order, ER report, capacity letter, and now a new affidavit template Avery had emailed overnight. The printer whirred again, pushing out the fresh page, affidavit of attempted transfer authorization. I smiled faintly at the phrase. Paper was my armor, and today it gleamed. I had just reached for my pen when a knock rattled the front door. 3 quick taps, confident, businesslike. A woman stood outside, raincoat dripping, clipboard in hand. "Mrs. Arliss Hale?" she asked. Her voice carried that practiced tone of efficiency. "Yes," I said, stepping closer but not wide enough for her to see the living room. "Jody Alcott, ma'am. Mobile Notary Services. I'm here to notarize the transfer papers you requested. Authorization from your daughter-in-law, Ms. Darley Quinn." I blinked slowly. I didn't request a notary. Her brow furrowed as she held up the clipboard. "It's right here, ma'am. Your name, signature, scheduled at 9 o'clock. She tapped the digital form, showing what looked like my scrawl. "That's interesting," I said, my tone as neutral as the rain. "May I see your ID, Ms. Alcott?" She hesitated but handed it over. I noted the license number, the embossed seal, and the faint tremor in her fingers. "Would you mind if I verify this with my attorney?" "Of course," she said, with the kind of politeness that only half believed it. I set my phone on speaker and dialed Avery Finch. He picked up instantly. "Morning, Arliss." "Good morning," I said. "I have a mobile notary here who says she's confirming a transfer appointment under my name, supposedly authorized by Darley Quinn." There was a short silence on the line. "There's no such document. Don't sign a thing. Ask for her commissioning number and agency supervisor." I repeated Avery's words clearly, still on speaker. The color drained from Jody's face. "Ma'am, I think there's been some kind of mix-up. I was just sent the appointment link." "By whom?" "A third-party scheduling request," she said quietly. "Through a real estate services platform. I didn't realize it wasn't you." The rain thickened outside, soft thunder behind her apology. I nodded once. "Then we'll get this cleared up properly. Thank you for your cooperation." By the time she left, the pen camera on my shelf had recorded the entire exchange. I retrieved it, checked the timestamp, 09/12/44, and opened my doorbell app to confirm footage. Both cameras aligned perfectly. I dictated aloud, my voice calm and precise. "Thursday, June 26th, attempted unauthorized notary visit. Visitor identified as Jody Alcott. License number 24F48-93. My fingers steadied on the keyboard as I titled a new folder. June 26, Notary Incident. Screenshots, photos of her ID, and the voice log all slid neatly inside. Next, I dialed Brett Hines, HOA chair. His voicemail picked up after 2 rings. "Brett, it's Arliss Hale. Lot 42. Please preserve camera footage from 9 to 9:30 this morning near my address. Thank you." On my monitor, the live HOA feed flickered across a corner of my porch, overlapping perfectly with the doorbell angle. Coverage was clean, no blind spot left for deceit. At 2 o'clock, Avery called back. "You handled that like a pro," he said. "I'll file a report with the State Notary Board. We'll also attach this to the TRO draft. Fraud attempt number 2, documented. I'll prepare an affidavit to match." I replied, "Already have placeholders for my signature and the date." "Good, keep your rhythm." Arliss, the more they push, the more your paperwork sings. When we hung up, I brewed tea and sat by the window. Outside, the rain had turned to mist. The clip replayed on my laptop, the nervous smile, the falsified signature, my calm refusal. Every frame was a reminder that experience wasn't paranoia. It was pattern recognition. I opened my case log file and typed 9 a.m. attempted fraudulent notary visit. ID verified. Photos captured. Folder June 26 notary incident created. Footage backed up, encrypted. HOA footage preservation requested. Then, one more line beneath it. Experience doesn't make you paranoid, it makes you precise. By dusk, the rain had ended. I placed the affidavit draft into the red file, closed the cover, and turned off the light. "They'll come again," I whispered to the empty room. "But I'm ready." The knitted blanket weighted over the chair, like a quiet witness. Tomorrow, a different kind of knock would come, one not asking for ink, but for faith. The morning air in Houston clung to my skin like damp linen. I parked by the cracked curb outside St. Helena Parish, the same small brick church my husband and I used to visit before his treatments. I carried a thermos of coffee in my red file bag, though today it felt wrong to bring paper into a house meant for prayer. On the wooden bench, by the steps, Sunlight caught a faint engraving we'd carved together years ago, our initials inside a crooked heart. I ran my fingers over it once before walking inside. Pastor Lewis Crane was already there, arranging hymnals. He looked up and smiled with that calm, soldiers learn after too many storms. "Mrs. Hale," he said softly. "It's been a while." He didn't mention the bandage on my nose, but his eyes did. I sat across from him in the small office that smelled of cedar and candle wax. "My daughter-in-law hit me," I said finally. The words came out without tremor, but they hung in the air like broken glass. And I wanted to hit back, just not with my hands. He didn't interrupt. The old clock ticked between us until I filled the silence. I built files, reports, camera logs. I'm winning, Pastor. But every night I wonder if I'm just feeding a quieter kind of anger. He leaned back. "Do you want peace or proof?" "Both," I said. "But proof first. Peace after." He nodded, eyes narrowing kindly. "Justice without forgiveness can rot the one who carries it." His words landed heavy. Sunlight caught the crucifix behind him, reflecting across my glasses like a cross of light and shadow. He handed me a blank sheet of paper. "Write what you'd say to her if you never saw her again." I stared at it, pen poised, heart steady. The first sentence flowed easily, too easily. "You took what wasn't yours, and I won't let you again." Halfway through, I stopped. The pen's point dug a small tear in the paper. I folded it once, then tore it clean down the center. "I don't owe her forgiveness yet," I whispered. Pastor Crane didn't flinch. "Then keep the space open until you do. Control isn't cruelty. It's stewardship." By noon, I met Zara Bell at a diner off Montrose. The smell of fried catfish and lemon tea cut through the humidity. Zara slid a tablet across the booth. Our techs confirmed another 3Me login attempt. Same pattern as before. She smiled faintly. "You're the calmest storm I've ever seen." I laughed under my breath. Calm's cheaper than chaos. After lunch, I drove to Memorial Park. The path was muddy from last night's rain, cicadas humming like low static. Pastor's voice replayed in my mind, "Peace isn't surrender, it's control." I recorded a short note into my phone, evidence and faith together in one file, and saved it beside the rest. As the sun slipped down, I returned to the parish bench. The wood was warm now, the air quiet except for traffic far off. I slid a folded paper beneath the crossbeam, a duplicate of the torn confession. On it, I'd written one line, "If proof fails, faith won't." The sky turned copper. I breathed once, long and clean. The ache in my chest was still there, but it had edges I could hold. My phone buzzed. Avery's message flashed on the screen. "Arliss, call me." The bank traced the 3M, log in, it's local. I looked back at the church door, then toward downtown's glass horizon. The peace I'd claimed this morning was already shifting into purpose. The phone rang just as the morning heat began to press against the windows. Zara Bell's name lit the screen. Her voice, usually calm and clipped, carried an edge. "Arliss, the trace came back. The 307 AM login attempt originated from your zip code, 2 streets over from Darley's address." I sat down slowly, staring at the coffee rippling in my cup. The neighborhood map glowed on the tablet, a red dot pulsing like a slow heartbeat. "Thank you, Zara," I said, keeping my tone level. My hand, though, trembled against the ceramic mug. Anger is quieter when it's earned. I didn't feel shock, only confirmation. 2 hours later, I was in Avery Finch's small cybersecurity office downtown. The room smelled of solder and burnt coffee. He spun his monitor toward me, displaying an array of digital threads. My account at the center branching into Darley's phone number, the same one she'd used to text me sweet nothings before the assault. She didn't even mask the device, Avery said, clicking through the IP logs. This is arrogance, not skill. I leaned closer, reading the string of timestamps. She believed I was too old to check the logs. Avery smiled faintly. Well, Mrs. Hale, that was her first mistake. He drafted a secure packet to send directly to Zara's fraud division, marking it S21 counterproof. I watched the lines connect on his screen, proof spreading like veins through the truth. By midday, I was back at the downtown branch, the same lobby where Darley once stood over me, correcting my signature as if I were a child. Zara met me by the vault corridor and led me to a side office. We spoke in measured tones, every word documented. Together we filled out the official fraud report, cross-referencing timestamps, authorization IDs, and the ER record already filed. Other tellers glanced in our direction, whispers forming just below the hum of the air conditioning. I caught one woman's eye and smiled. They'll remember I smiled when they expected tears. When Avery's call came mid-meeting, I stepped into the hallway. His tone was urgent. She's expecting a mailed authorization letter, fake signature, fake consent. It's already in the postal stream. Then we stop it, I said. Within minutes, he'd patched through a contact at USPS's Fraud Intercept Division. I provided tracking details from the bank's outbox. They flagged the envelope for seizure before delivery. The postal clerk on speakerphone promised an update within 12 hours. A modern battleground, I thought. Not swords, not fists, just an inbox, a tracking code, and patience. Late afternoon brought the inevitable. My phone vibrated, Darley's name flashing across the screen. "Did you mess with my access?" she barked, voice sharp enough to cut glass. "No," I said evenly. "The bank did. You think you're clever?" "No," I replied, almost smiling. "I'm thorough." The silence that followed was short, but telling. She hung up first. I left the line open long enough to save the recording to my red file folder. June 28. Call threat confirmed. By evening, the house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. The doorbell camera blinked a steady blue. I sat at the dining table, phone on speaker, recording the night's notes aloud for the case log. Saturday, June 28th. Fraud trace confirmed. Device match local, USPS intercept in progress. The light from the window turned gold, catching the edges of the red file. I remembered Pastor Crane's voice. Peace isn't surrender, it's control. On my tablet, I created a new directory. Proof for Attorney General. I backed up every file, every timestamp, every whisper of digital evidence. My reflection in the screen looked calm, almost detached. A notification chimed, an email from USPS. Intercept complete. Package held at facility. I exhaled slowly, the corners of my mouth lifting just slightly. "It's not divine intervention," I murmured, closing the laptop. "It's discipline." The morning heat shimmered over the asphalt as I pulled into the postal processing center. A low hum of conveyor belts came through the open doors, carrying the day's envelopes toward their destinations. I stepped to the counter, red file tucked under my arm, and handed over my ID and the intercept code Avery had emailed. The clerk disappeared into the back and returned with a thin white envelope. Its corner slightly creased, the sender's label printed by a company I'd never heard of. I asked him to sign the chain of custody note and timestamp the receipt. Click. I took a photo of the front and back before sliding it into a transparent pouch. Proof in paper form felt heavier than any bruise. At Avery's office, the blinds were half drawn against the glare. He positioned a small camera on the desk and pressed record. I handed him the envelope, still sealed. "For the file," I said. He nodded and sliced it open under the lens. Inside lay a pre-filled authorization form granting full account access to Darley Quinn, and a notary sticker so fresh the adhesive still smelled like plastic. Avery scanned the QR code, frowned, and tapped his keyboard. Registry entries dead. This was printed off a template site. His voice was flat, not surprised. Fraud by design. I studied the handwriting. Mine, copied perfectly from older documents. Not design, I said quietly. Habit. We scanned every page, saved them to the June 30 Intercept kit, and backed it up to the cloud. The silence between us was the sound of certainty. After lunch, I called Zara. "Miles is ready," she said. By the time I arrived at the bank, the branch was calm, almost reverent. Zara escorted me to a small conference room where Miles Corbin waited, sleeves rolled up. We reviewed the security sheet Avery had drafted, in-person verification only, new verbal passphrase, outbound transfer locks, email alerts mirrored to Avery's inbox. On the monitor, a string of toggles blinked green, one by one. "This firewall's yours," Miles said. "No one touches your accounts without you." I nodded, grateful but measured. Protection wasn't comfort, it was duty. Back home. My laptop pinged. An email from Brett Hines, HOA chair. Secure link attached. Footage from June 24th, 11:52 p.m. I clicked it open. The HOA camera showed a silver SUV circling my cul-de-sac, pausing near my driveway before turning off the headlights. The license plate was half visible, time-stamped, aligning perfectly with my doorbell footage. I exported stills, hashed them, and entered the record into my growing spreadsheet, Timeline Master XLSXX. Every frame another nail in the frame of truth. By mid-afternoon, I was downtown again, standing beneath the marble facade of the county civil courthouse. The air inside smelled of toner and floor wax. I placed my documents on the clerk's counter, ER report, capacity letter, bank logs, pen camera transcript, USPS scans, HOA stills. She arranged them into a neat spine and handed me a number. When my case was called, I entered the judge's chambers alone. The judge read quietly, lips moving as she reached the line. "Sign it, or I'll make this harder." A pause. Then, "Temporary restraining order granted. Service to be completed within 72 hours. The gavel never struck, yet the sound echoed all the same. Outside, the Houston heat wrapped around me. I called Avery and said, "We move from collecting to protecting." He laughed softly. "That's the right phase. Arliss." I looked down at the TRO order stamped in blue and slid it into the red file. "Bruises fade," I murmured. "Paper doesn't." The courthouse steps glowed like bleached stone under the sun, and for the first time in weeks, I exhaled without flinching. That evening, the house was quiet except for the hum of the air conditioner and the rhythmic hiss of sprinklers outside. I updated the case log, USPS chain, HOA footage, financial firewall, TRO order, all noted and dated, and backed up twice. The files blinked green on my encrypted drive. Tiny lights of victory. I set down my pen and rested my hands on the table. When they finally speak to a judge, I thought, my silence will be the loudest voice in the room. My phone buzzed. A text from the process server. Attempted service tonight, no answer. Lights on. I smiled faintly, closing the red file. Tomorrow, the next game would begin. The TRO order lay flat under the morning light, each paragraph crisp with authority. I reread the hearing date, slipped 2 certified copies into protective sleeves, and pressed them into the red file. My phone chimed. A text from Zara. "All green, no activity overnight." I typed back, "Thank you," then set the phone beside my coffee. Calm isn't the absence of chaos. It's a practice skill. By mid-morning, my phone lit up again, this time with the family group chat, the one I'd muted months ago. A new notification pushed through. Darlie had posted a photo of me leaving the courthouse. The caption read, "Elder abuse drama. She's lost it." Her words scrolled fast, joined by a few of my relatives' pity emojis. I didn't type anger, not even punctuation. I attached a single image of the TRO header and wrote, "Case number 24317C. All questions may be directed to the court." Then I muted the thread again. Her chatter filled one half of the screen, my quiet reply, the other. Split screens, one for noise, one for truth. At noon, the process server called. "Attempted service," he said. No answer. Curtains moved. He sent a GPS-stamped photo of the door tag taped to the frame. "Stay safe," I replied. "Document everything." His professionalism steadied me. The law didn't rush, but it remembered. Then the next hit came sideways. A voicemail blinked from Adult Protective Services. The voice was careful, almost apologetic. "Mrs. Hale, we received a report alleging confusion and possible exploitation by a tech manipulator. We'd like to verify your safety." I knew exactly who had made that call. I dialed back immediately, calm and direct. "You're welcome to visit today," I told them. "I have my physician's capacity letter, ER report, and the existing case number." Within an hour, a supervisor called back, impressed by the organization. They'd be over by 3. Retaliation had tried to disguise itself as concern. While waiting, another message buzzed in, a screenshot from a neighbor. Next door post, "Something strange going on at the Hale house. Police last week?" The thread had 5 comments and 3 theories. I didn't respond. Instead, I texted Brett from the HOA. "Please preserve camera footage for the week. Usual window applies. Already on it," he wrote back. Gossip was background noise. Preservation was the music I played. At 3 sharp, 2 APS workers arrived. Badges visible, clipboards ready. I led them to the kitchen, where the red file lay open across the table. "Here's the TRO order, doctor's note, and bank records," I said. They inspected each tab, noting timestamps, emergency contacts, medication list. One worker looked around my tidy home, nodded, and said quietly, "You're fine, ma'am. Someone tried to weaponize the system against you." When they left, the line on their form read, "Case closed. Unfounded. Retaliatory report suspected." It felt less like victory, more like relief from static. By late afternoon, I called Avery. "Let's move on subpoenas," I said. "Carrier logs, cloud backups, HOA servers, bank devices." He chuckled softly. "Already drafted. Quiet subpoenas work better than loud threats." I wrote his phrase into my ledger and added my own note beneath. "Proof is a bridge. Subpoenas are the planks." At dusk, my phone rang again. The process server. I tried her house, car in the driveway, lights on, TV blaring, no answer. Recorded everything. "Document it," I said. "Next step, her workplace." Understood. Another image arrived, the door tag fluttering in the evening wind. Service was inevitable, only the timing changed. I set the phone down on the dining table, screen still glowing. On one side, the muted family chat, frozen on Darlie's last rant. On the other, the process server's photo log uploading. 2 realities running side by side, performance and proof. I breathed in the silence between them and whispered, "Noise demands attention. Truth only needs time." Just before 9, a text arrived. "Employer confirmed schedule. We'll serve her publicly tomorrow." I smiled slightly and closed the red file. Outside, the night air pressed against the windows, heavy with promise. Tomorrow. the whisper would become a record. I chose a plain navy dress, quiet, unremarkable, the kind you wear when you want the world to see your composure, not your story. I slipped the TRO packet and 2 certified copies into the red file, then checked the clinic's posted hours. My phone buzzed. Zara's text, "Account secure, all locks green." I exhaled through my nose, feeling the steadiness settle in my chest. Today wasn't about vengeance. It was about order. Across the street from Gulfway Aesthetics, the July sun pressed down like judgment. The process server, a lean man in a gray polo, waited by his car with a clipboard and a calm face. We went over the plan one last time. Lobby camera, timestamp sync, body cam already recording. I told him, no gloating, just record and read. He smiled. "Ma'am, I only serve facts." I checked the time, 11:54 a.m. The clock had no bias, it simply kept moving. The sliding glass doors hissed open right on cue. Darlie swept in with her latte and loud laughter, wearing lavender scrubs and the kind of confidence that came from assuming she'd never be held accountable. The process server stepped forward. "Ms. Darlie Quinn," he announced clearly, holding out the envelope. "You've been served with a temporary restraining order issued by the Harris County Civil Court." The camera's red light blinked once. She froze, blinked, and then exploded. "You're an elder abuse liar!" she shouted, slapping the papers from his hand. The envelope scattered, white sheets against the polished tile. The lobby fell silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. I didn't move. I bent down, picked up the TRO copy, and handed it calmly to Vivian Cho, the HR manager standing nearby. "For your records," I said, my voice even. "Safety concern only." Vivian's eyes widened as she read the header. A patient near the desk whispered, "That's a court order." The server recorded everything, timestamp blinking. Darlie's cheeks burned red as she stormed down the hall. No one followed her. Vivian ushered us into a small HR office, closed the door, and called for security. She reviewed the stamped TRO and highlighted the no contact clause. Her tone was professional, crisp. "We protect patients and staff. This is non-negotiable." Within minutes, she had Darlie placed on administrative leave and her badge access revoked. There was no drama, just policy in motion. For the first time in months, I felt the quiet kind of safety that comes from someone else doing their job. Outside in the parking lot, the process server handed me a flash drive. "Body cam footage exported," he said. I logged the handoff into my ledger. Chain of custody entry, 7:02:137 p.m. Geotag confirmed on speakerphone. Avery's voice came steady. "Perfect. That's admissible. Ready for the subpoenas?" "Send them," I said. "Proof deserves a deadline." By 3 o'clock, Avery's digital dashboard lit up on my tablet. Subpoenas and preservation letters sent, mobile carrier logs, cloud backups, HOA footage, clinic security, USPS intercept trail, bank device records. Each line turned green as confirmations arrived. "Proof is patient," I murmured. "We just gave it a calendar." Then, as predictably as thunder after lightning, the family group chat flared up again. A cousin wrote, "What did you do to Darlie? She's suspended." Darlie followed with a voice message full of self-pity and half-truths. I posted one message only. Case number 24317C. Hearing July 15th. Please respect the order. Then I muted the thread. Silence, again, was my chosen armor. A new text came in seconds later from Zara. "Proud of you." I didn't need more. By dusk, I was back home. The air smelled faintly of cut grass and cooling asphalt. I placed the day's documents into the red file and set it on the mantel beside my late husband's photo. The light from the window caught the embossed seal on the TRO. I whispered, "Justice doesn't raise its voice, it raises its standard." The phone buzzed once more. A message from the process server. "Employer confirmed tomorrow's schedule. Public handoff will complete at 10 a.m. I looked at the photo on the mantel, then at the red file, thicker now, steadier than before. Tomorrow would be loud for her, but for me, it would be just another day of quiet justice done right. I arrived at the courthouse before sunrise. The marble steps were slick with humidity, the same July haze that always made downtown Houston shimmer like a mirage. I sat on the carved bench outside 1910, the red file on my lap, and flipped through the exhibit list one more time. Bank logs, USPS intercept, HOA footage, body cam service, APS closure note. My late husband's brass key fob rested between my fingers, warm from the heat of my palm. I wasn't praying for victory, only for clarity. Inside, the fluorescent lights hummed low. When the bailiff called our case, I rose slowly, spine straight, hands folded around the file. The courtroom was smaller than I'd imagined. One long wooden table, 2 microphones that buzzed faintly, and the sound of papers sliding. My lawyer, Avery, whispered, "We're ready." I nodded. The judge's eyes were calm but sharp. "Proceed." Avery began with the subpoena returns. On the screen behind him, evidence stacked itself like chapters of a single story. The carrier logs showed Darley's phone within a half-mile of my bank at 3:07 a.m. Cloud backups revealed screenshots of the draft transfer form. USPS records tied the shell company's POO box to her husband's name. The HOA camera loop played next. My cul-de-sac caught in night vision, the familiar SUV creeping past at the exact minute the doorbell cam recorded movement. Then came the clinic footage, the body cam clip of the TRO service. Sound crisp enough for the courtroom to hear her voice echo. Elder abuse liar. The judge leaned forward. "Admit it." His pen moved like a metronome over the docket sheet. Darley's attorney stood. "Your Honor, my client was acting to protect family assets," Avery interrupted softly, "by forging a notarization and accessing an elderly account at 3 a.m. He tapped the monitor. The metadata expanded. Timestamps, IP addresses, a QR code resolving to a dead registry. A text bubble appeared. Her own message. "If she signs, we're done." Her voice cracked. "That wasn't..." The judge raised a hand. "Enough." No recess. No more explanations. Just the sound of silence settling into the woodwork. Then came the affidavits. Zara's statement confirmed the step-up locks that froze her credentials after the fraud attempt. Vivian's HR memo noted administrative leave for workplace safety. The judge skimmed, then said quietly, "Pattern established." Now, when he spoke, the ruling, it was without fanfare. A 1-year protective order, no contact, geo-fence restrictions, restitution for medical costs, and a required ethics course. "The respondent shall have no financial agency over the petitioner's accounts," he read. "Court acknowledges full cognitive capacity per medical evaluation." He paused, eyes meeting mine. "Justice doesn't shout," he said. "It records." I exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. Outside, the afternoon heat hit like a wall. On the courthouse steps, I sent a single text to the family chat. Case number, order summary, respect the order. Then I pressed leave group. At home, the house smelled faintly of lemon polish and paper. I slid the stamped order into the red file and opened my legacy ledger. I converted my emergency fund into a small living trust, half to the community scholarship, half to the church pantry, At the bottom of the page, I wrote one conditional line for any future reconciliation. Proof first, proximity later. When dusk came, I set the file on the mantel beside my husband's photo. The radio played an old hymn, Blessed Assurance. I watered the basil on the porch, the phone face down on the table. The neighborhood was quiet except for the hum of cicadas and the faint tick of the sprinkler against the fence. She broke my nose. The court mended my standing. I kept my voice. And that was enough. When I look back now, I realize justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, steady and calm, through every choice we make to stand up for ourselves. What happened to me wasn't just about one family or one courtroom. It was about every person who's ever been told they're too old, too soft, or too slow to protect what they've built. I hope my story reminds you that dignity has no expiration date, and silence, when chosen with purpose, can be the strongest voice in the room. If you're watching this, take a moment to ask yourself, what does justice look like in your own life? Have you ever had to reclaim your peace quietly, one paper, one breath at a time? If this story touched your heart, leave a comment with the number 1 or tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to know. And if you didn't like it, share why. Every story teaches something. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story of courage, wisdom, and quiet strength. Your support keeps these voices alive.